Hi guys. Um, so I'm going to talk about main misconceptions about self-harm because I want to kick this channel off again. I tried it before, but where I stopped recording videos and all that. Yeah, I thought the best thing to do was start with a misconception of self-harm because people don't tend to know what self-harm is really about, and they tend to prejudge it before they actually know the person who's dealing with it, which I know from personal experience it's not a nice thing at all to have done. So I thought the misconception is the best place to start. I think the biggest misconception is that self-harm is a suicide attempt or a failed suicide attempt. Now that's not strictly true. Self-harm and suicide are fairly similar, but there are quite a few differences between them. So they're both an escape from emotion, a place, situation, but that's about where the similarities end. Because self-harm's a temporary escape. Like, it gives you a release and you feel better. You get down, and then you self-harm, and you feel better, and it's a release. That's generally how it works. Whereas suicide is a permanent thing. And people say that suicide is a coward's way out, and that's not true either, but I will do a video on suicide at some point, and how it is completely different to self-harm. I might do a whole video on that, I don't know. Self-harm is not a suicide attempt, it's a way of escaping for a temporary period of time. And people who self-harm, I'm not saying they don't have suicidal thoughts, they might, but they're two completely different things. Self-harm is normally a way to escape suicide. It's a way of surviving, it's just the way people deal with it. The second biggest misconception is that self-harm is attention seeking. Most of the time it's private, it's a personal thing, and people try to keep it a secret for as long as possible. Just because someone has a courage to show their scars does not mean it's attention seeking, because they're scars. Scars means it's something that's healed, which means it was in their past. That's not attention seeking. Someone who is currently self-harming will probably wear long sleeves unless they're on their own or with someone they feel comfortable around. Someone who does self-harm will keep it a secret for as long as they can. They set out with the intention that it will stay a secret and no one will find out. A lot of us know that's not how it works. It does end up getting found out at some point by someone. It's more of a cry for help than attention seeking. It brings judgment and all sorts of discrimination, and people who self-injure only cut themselves. That's not true. There are other ways people do it, and just because you don't see someone's got cuts on their arms doesn't mean they're not self-harming. I'm not saying it's just go and judge everyone and say assume that everyone's self-harming. There are many methods of self-harm. I'm not going to go into detail because that's not what it's about, but this channel's not about talking about the methods of how people self-harm or ways people do it. It's about recovery and how, in order for people to recover, everyone else needs to understand a bit more and not have misconceptions. And if people don't have misconceptions, then it's a lot easier for people to talk about it and for them to just be more open and recover themselves and not see it as such a negative thing that will, yeah, it's bad, I'm not saying it's a good thing. Self-harm's never good. It's a way of them seeing that there is a road to recovery. And to do that, you need people to support you, and that's what I'm trying to drive at, really, is the support. And my personal bad experiences with people not being supportive, or just people in general. People who self-harm are emo. Just because someone is emo and self-harms does not mean they self-harm because they're emo. Someone may have long hair that covers their face, like this. They may cover their face. And they may sit like this. But they might not self-harm. And just because someone dresses in black, that's not their reason for self-harming. It's normally something else, which doesn't mean that everyone who's emo self-harms and everyone who self-harms is emo or gothic. You can go from, you have the emo person over here, who self-harms. And it doesn't self-harm because of their emo, but everyone assumes that they do. They can also have a person over here who is the girliest girl or the sportiest boy who also self-harm. Now, people come from all walks of life who self-harm. Fact. People who self-harm are a danger to others. Self-harm is not a secretive thing, as I said earlier. People who self-harm turn their anger and frustrations inwards, which prevents them from showing it on the outside. So they won't go out and attack someone else. They won't punch someone. They won't do anything else to anyone. Because it's secretive and it's an inward thing. And it's how they cope. So those are the misconceptions I'm going to talk about. There are many more. I'm going to shimmy off. But yeah, those are the misconceptions that I feel are most important for people to understand and know they aren't the truth. Because they are not the truth. They might be for a few people, but in the long run they're not. For the majority of people they are not true. So yeah. So yeah, thanks for watching. And if you want to do a video response to this, I will watch it. Post it below. I'll watch it. I'm sure other people will as well. And if you go to my channel, right here, click there. Click that. Go to my channel. I will put links to other YouTubers who do the same kind of thing as this, who have a lot more videos than me. This is my first one. And we'll put a few on there. Those people also have links to other people. So hopefully you'll find something that works. But if you want me to do a particular video, got a request, either send me an inbox, or you send me a message, or post it in the comments below. And thanks for watching, guys.